Hello, this is Jen, and this is part 1 of how to crochet the modern market bag. This is a spacious shoulder bag with a unique back opening. The shoulder strap is nice and wide for a comfortable carry. Use it as your everyday purse or take it to the farmer's market. Fill with a fresh baguette and your greens for the week, and you're on your way. So let's crochet. Hello again, this is Jen from Windrose Fiber Studio. For our project this week, I am using 3 skeins of Caron's Cinnamon Swirl Cakes. I have a 5mm crochet hook. I keep a pair of scissors handy, a yarn needle, and a couple of stitch markers. I have links for you in the description below. I will say in retrospect, I wish I had used a 4.5 or even a 4mm crochet hook, as this yarn was quite dense and made up a little larger than I wanted it to. Speaking of sizing, I have all the information you need in the description below to create a swatch that is 13 stitches across and contains rows 1 through 5. Your finished swatch should measure approximately 4 inches wide and just over 2 inches high. Because of the nature of this project, if it's a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, you should be fine. If it's much different, you might want to adjust your hook size to get closer to that gauge. Now we can jump right into our project. We're starting with the body of the bag, and we're going to be working from the bottom of the bag up to the armhole. Because there are 2 sides to the bag, we're going to need to make 2. The stitch that we're using today is the ripple stitch, and row 1 begins with a foundation double crochet of 57 stitches. In the description below, I have linked a video that I made in preparation for today's project. This video is time-stamped and you can go directly to the ripple stitch. I walk you through each row, including the foundation double crochet. If you would like to skip the foundation double crochet altogether, you can chain 59 and then work a double crochet in the 3rd chain from your hook and in each stitch across. This will give you a row of 57 double crochets. The 2 chains that you skip at the beginning will not be counted as a stitch. They are just there to help you get to the height of a double crochet. I am aware that we often chain 3 to get to the height of a double crochet. I went for a chain 2 because I really don't want this turning chain to stick out on the side of our work. I'm going to make one more foundation double crochet together here with you, and then we'll take a look at the beginning of row 1. So here we are, we have our double crochet, which are stacked nice and vertically on top of a chain. At the beginning of our foundation double crochet row, we have these 2 chains. These are not going to count as your first stitch. Your first stitch is right here, and it's right above the post of that first double crochet. If you count, we have 5 stitches so far, and that means we have 52 to go. I have just time traveled to the end of row 1. I'm placing a stitch marker in my loop so I don't accidentally pull out my work. Now I'm taking the time to check my stitch count. Right from the very beginning, we want to make sure that stitch count is correct, and guess what? I was 1 short, so I'm adding 1 more foundation double crochet. I quickly add that last foundation double crochet, and then I even take the time to double check my stitch count. Row 1 is measuring in at 18 inches and we're ready to move on to row 2. Row 2 begins with a stacked single crochet. Turn your work so that the working yarn is behind your fabric. Make sure the loop on your hook is just a little bit looser than you normally would have it, and then insert it into that first stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. That's all there is to a stacked single crochet, and now we continue row 2 by working a single crochet in each stitch across. For this row, row 2, and for every row of this part of the project, your stitch count is always going to be 57 stitches. The last single crochet of this row will be worked into the very first foundation double crochet. Be sure that you're not working into those 2 chains from the beginning of row 1. Row 3 begins with a stacked double crochet. Once again, turn your work so that the working yarn is behind your fabric and have your loop be just a little bit longer. Insert your hook into that first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through 2. Turn your work just a little bit to the side so you can see that side edge and insert your hook back to front underneath those 2 threads. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. You've just created a stacked double crochet and you're ready to move on. Yarn over twice, and now we're going to work a front post treble crochet around the post of the double crochet that is directly below the next stitch. Insert your hook front to back around that post, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And now you're going to skip that next stitch, the one right behind the treble crochet you just made, and you're going to work a double crochet into the next stitch. This is our repeating pattern for this row. Let's look at it again. For a front post treble crochet, you're going to yarn over twice, and we're working around the post of the double crochet that is directly below the next stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Then we skip the next stitch and we work a double crochet in the next stitch. Let's do that repeat once again. You're going to yarn over twice and you're going to work a front post treble around the double crochet below the next stitch. Skip the next stitch and then work a double crochet in the next stitch. Then it's back to the beginning of that repeat. Row 3 is your first row of ripple stitches. If you turn your fabric over, you can see those stitches that you skipped. That can be a nice way to double check and make sure that you're skipping every other stitch. And now I'm just going to carry on and work until I get to the end of row 3. Once again, I have time traveled and I'm almost at the end of row 3. It's really fun to see the different colors start to come into our fabric. I've just made a front post treble, so I'm skipping a stitch and working a double crochet in the next stitch. And now back to the beginning of the repeat. I'm going to work a front post treble around the double crochet below the next stitch. We skip the next stitch and then we work our very last double crochet into that stacked single crochet from the previous row. Sometimes the stitch is a little bit shorter or it's facing the back just a little bit, so just be careful not to miss this stitch. It's always a good idea to double check your stitch count at the end of a row until you really get into the flow of this ripple stitch. Row 4 is a repeat of row 2. We begin with a stacked single crochet. Turn your work so that the working yarn is behind your fabric, elongate that loop on your hook just a little bit, and then insert it into that first stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through 2. Continue on with row 4 by working a single crochet in each stitch across. Row 4 will have a total of 57 stitches. Here we are at the end of row 4. Our last single crochet will be worked into the stacked double crochet from the previous row. Row 5 begins with another stacked double crochet. Turn your work so that your working yarn is behind your fabric. Keep your work nice and loose as you insert your hook into that first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through 2. Turn your work to the side, insert your hook back to front under these 2 side threads, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. The repeating pattern for row 5 starts by working a double crochet in the next stitch. And now we're going to work a front post treble around the double crochet below the next stitch. Let's have a quick look at our fabric. So we started off with a stacked double crochet, and then we worked a double crochet in the next stitch, and now we're going to work a front post treble around the double crochet below the next stitch. From this point on, it's much easier to find the double crochet around which you're working your front post trebles. It's always going to be that double crochet between the two trebles or those ripple stitches from the last treble crochet row. So let's carry on. We yarn over twice. We work our front post treble around the double crochet below the next stitch. Then we skip the next stitch right behind that treble and we work a double crochet in the next stitch. Now we're going to front post treble around the double crochet below the next stitch, right in between those two trebles from our last treble row. Skip a stitch and back to the beginning of our repeat, double crochet in the next stitch. You're going to continue this repeating pattern all the way across. I'm going to do a few more just so we can get into the flow. If you encounter a knot in your yarn, you can see I'm pulling out my last yarn over pull through 2, and then I'm going beyond the knot, giving myself plenty of room for weaving in loose ends, then yarn over and pull through those 2. So it's almost like I've just joined a new color. Make sure you have enough yarn before and after the knot so that later on you can cut off the knot and weave in those loose ends. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. Here we are at the end of row 5. I'm working a front post treble around the double crochet below the next stitch. I skip the next stitch and then a double crochet in the next stitch. And now I'm going to work a double crochet in the last stitch. You'll notice that at the end of row 5 there are 2 double crochets, and at the beginning of row 5 there are 2 double crochets. This offsets those trebles and really creates that ripple effect. We have just completed our first 5 rows, beginning with our foundation double crochet, then a row of single, our first treble crochet row, another row of single crochets right here, and then row 5 we bring those treble crochets back in. To continue on with this part of the project, rows 6 through 44, you're going to repeat rows 2 through 5 respectively. So you're not going to be doing row 1 anymore. You're going to do 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way until you have a total of 44 rows. For your convenience, I have written these instructions out in the description below. You can either watch the video or you can just follow the written instructions. Here I have my 2 panels, so I am all ready for part 2. In part 2, we'll be completing the modern market bag. For right now, all you need to do is work these 2 panels of ripple stitches and you'll have the bulk of your project complete. That's all for today. I'll be back next week with part 2. If you're watching this in the future, I have the complete playlist for the Modern Market Bag in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.